Right, so we're going to the second game here. A little surprised, Team DBC decides to send out here JustSin's, who is running also a Stompy list. Oh no, I'm sorry. I apologize. I think I've been saying that all along. JustSin's is actually running Mono Black Control. I keep saying Stompy because he has run several Stompy lists. But it looks like it will be Mono Black Control. So our finals match here, we have Sneaky Little Green Men and their player Drinkard, who took down the first match against E-Hustle and his Tortured Existence 2-1. Moving on here, again, going to be playing against Team DBC's player JustSin's, who is running Mono Black Control. So this will be definitely an interesting match. You know, there has been a lot of improvements to this particular matchup in recent sets. We have seen the printing, obviously, of Young Wolf, Hunger the Howl Pack, which can bring some benefit. And Drinkard's list is running actually the Safehold Elite as well, which gives it some benefit against all of the extra kill that you will see obviously in this particular matchup. But, you know, so it's kind of worked to even up the matchup a little bit, and turn 1 Young Wolf is a nice start. But ultimately, it's kind of well known that MBC has a better matchup for this particular, you know, just so much kill available. Plenty of edicts, and usually a lot in the sideboard. So we'll have to see Drinkard again having a, you know, that was definitely a matchup in his favor in the first round. Here in the second round, a little bit unfavorable for him. So we'll have to see if he's able to pull this down. But if he's able to pull off a game like he did last time, we can be in for a great match. Ranger coming down, Siri, if he has an edict effect and wants to kill off the wolf, now is the time. Decides not to, and we'll have to see what the second one is, a ranker. So does he have a kill? This is the time to use that. Obviously, the wolf will come back as a 2-2, but it will keep that ranker off the board on a permanent basis. Usually, it is pretty easy for Mono Black to hit a turn 2 kill or play. So turn 2 with 2 lands, you will see a kill, and it will be Echoing Decay. So if you don't see them play like a Sign in Blood with 2 mana, or, you know, a Crypt Rats, then definitely expect them to have a kill, because that's kind of how the mana curve always works out there. So there's going to be no attack at a Drinkard on this turn, which is, you know, not great. He does lose the ranker there, but at least the Young Wolf is a little bit bigger. That's going to be kind of nice. What he really is going to have to watch out for is just continued use here. Obviously, the Ranger provides him a decent outlet for bypassing some of those edict effects. And it's, you know, kind of nice as well. Here comes our Crypt Rats, which is bad as well. I was going to say, it's kind of nice to get that Echoing Decay out of the way really early. Mono Black Control these days does not usually run Echoing Decay. That is something that was more popular during the days of Red Storm and Empty the Warrens. With that being banned out, Echoing Decay has kind of fallen out of favor. JustSin's is running kind of what I like to call the sneak attack list, which is interesting because Sneak is on his opposing team here. But the sneak attack list, which does run a single copy of the Echoing Decay, and it still works pretty nice in this particular match, or any aggro match for that case. You know, if you hit one of those on, say, a whole Cloud of Fae, well, a Cloud of Fae, then that could definitely work out in your favor. And plenty of options here to kill out multiple creatures. So getting that out of the way early is nice. It's not as good, obviously, as the Crypt Rats is, but, you know, it still works as a mass kill. So 4 cards in hand for Drinkard, may be holding back on playing additional creatures, as he knows the Crypt Rats in play going to provide him a lot of issues. JustSin's, a little bit of thought going in here. Looks like he's going to simply attack, start those Crypt Rat beats. 19 turds Drinkard is gone for. But we might see a Rager come out here. Nope, he is going to actually activate the Crypt Rats at this point, just to clear that board state. So hopefully Drinkard, and I imagine he did, you know, keep back creatures. You know what's kind of interesting here? So I was talking about how JustSin's is kind of running the sneak attack version of Mono Black Control. Well, it's kind of interesting when you're playing against a team that contains sneak attack, because he knows that deck in and out, and I guarantee you he's going to be able to easily coach Drinkard in the best way to deal with some of these things. So it'd be interesting to see what, if any, impact having Sneak on his team will provide Drinkard. And it looks like he's going to simply cast a Skulk with no Bloodthirst. Kind of nice. You know, obviously you want that +1/+1 counter, but getting that body on the field is kind of important. It's going to provide, again, another target for, kind of a lightning rod for other kill spells. Kind of tempt him out. And if you can land, a pump on it later on, then having that one attack is not going to be so critical. So Sign in Blood coming down for J-Siri. Looks like he was looking for a fourth land and may not have found it. That would definitely be detrimental to whatever progression he might have seen. Deadweight is going to come out and at least kill off that Skulk, like I said. Not so great to have it as a 1-1, but it is going to act as a lightning rod, and it does at least get that Deadweight out of there. And J-Siri not hitting a fourth land. We'll have to see what kind of impact that can have as Young Wolf comes on the field. Again, one of those few cards that they have that is actually beneficial in this particular matchup as it comes back and gets bigger after it dies. So here we are now. It is turn 6. Did J-Siri find a fourth land? That'll be just... ugh. I've been in this particular matchup. I know how this works. When you find yourself in a matchup that's supposed to be slightly favorable, but you come to turn 6, you've drawn 2 extra cards and have still not hit that fourth land. That is definitely frustrating. You have to start to wonder, because Young Wolf, if you use that as a kill spell on the Young Wolf, you're going to end up having to sink 2 cards for 1 since it comes back. But it looks like he's going to put out Chittering Rats. That's going to provide a blocker at some point. Probably not anytime soon, as the Young Wolf, you don't, again, want it to come back just yet. So, Trinkard, 4 cards in hand. Probably going to see him try and attack into this Chittering Rats, and J-Siri probably just take the damage. Oh no, he's actually going to block it at this point. Okay, well, you can at this point, I guess, consider Chittering Rats to be a kill spell. Chittering Rat's going to essentially kill off the Young Wolf. Probably doesn't even need to waste an additional kill spell on it because he can simply, again, chump with the rats. Skulk will come down without the Bloodthirst, but will get pumped up on the Hunger. That's going to put it out of range for a blocker for J-Siri. We'll have to try and target that down with a kill spell. And with 7 cards in hand and possibly still not hitting his 4th land drop. Okay, he does get it. Still, 6 cards in hand, you have to imagine there is some kind of answer for a 4/4 in that hand. I mean, if you can find a kill spell here, wipe that Skulk off the board. Again, you can easily trade that Crypt Rats for the Young Wolf, and that is something that you're probably willing to do in most cases. Oh, but he is going to throw out a Deadweight. Okay, trying to keep some of these creatures on the board. But it is, again, something you easily want to do. Verdict going to come down now that it's a clear board state. Obviously, going to have to essentially waste that Deadweight in order to make that Verdict hit, which is a kind of a downfall of those Edict effects. If they have more than one creature, it's going to be harder to deal with. They can sacrifice what they want as opposed to what you want. So he's going to get in some of those Crypt Rat beats. One of the things you will notice from this particular list out of J-Siri is that he is not running the Grey Merchants. Ooh, and a Gang Shinobi coming in. That's going to be devastating. Trinkard's going to end up being in top deck mode, but it looks like he does have 2 forests, which he's easily able to throw away to that. Keeping in mind now, 2 cards every turn are going to be forcibly discarded if he does not chump block that Shinobi. And we will see probably the Chittering Rats come right back down. But I was saying that we do not see a Grey Merchant in this list from J-Siri. It's definitely a stronger list than those that kind of pile up on the Grey Merchants and the Corrupts. So, going to... that's definitely troublesome. In order to prevent the Crypt Rats from skipping his draw, he's simply going to give his hexproof creature hexproof. And as I said, this is definitely going to this. You're looking at an advantage for the mono black player in this particular matchup, and you can kind of see why. But without that Grey Merchant, I feel like I keep starting this and not finishing it. He's not going to have to worry about, we saw him using spells there to kill off the Young Wolf as opposed to just blocking the Chittering Rats. And that's going to be directly as a result of trying to get that Geth's Verdict to trigger that Edict effect on the Skulk, as opposed to just, trading with the Rats, because he doesn't have Grey Merchant, so there's no real need to keep that Rat on the field to build up a black count. He's not even running any copies in the sideboard, which is kind of refreshing to see. So Trinkard, again, at this point, he's going to have to play spells or lose them. And the Sentinel coming out, if J-Siri doesn't have a kill, 4 cards in hand, I imagine he does, but if he doesn't, that can easily trade for the Shinobi if J-Series decides to actually attack through with it. I would be, I guess, a little surprised if he does. Though, again, I would be surprised if he doesn't have a kill spell in hand. And there it is, Victim of Night. Any number of cards in hand for a mono black player, you just have to automatically assume that it is a kill. And Drinkard going down to 2 already. Looks like we may see J-Series taking down this first game already here in the finals for our team league. Unearth coming in, targeting Cryptorats, and he's going to be able to simply activate. Alright, so that is going to be the first game going out to J-Series. And again, a tough matchup that Drinkard's going to have to face going into the second game here. So let's talk sideboards for a minute. I mean, there's some options. J-Series running plenty of extra kill spells. 4 Tendrils of Corruption in there means plenty of options for life gain. He could bring in, he's running 3 copies of Devour Flesh. Witches, he could bring in a 4th copy. There's a 4th Victim of Night. So plenty of options there for him. This is ironically almost identical to the list that Sneak is running in this league, which is kind of fun. Well, I guess it depends who you are. Okay, so looking at Drinkard, and again, a very, very tough matchup for him. God, I don't even know what he could bring in here. He's got a lot of great options for taking down many opponents. Lots of stuff against Delver. Actually had answers for Tortured. But I'm not sure what he brings in here even. He's got 3 copies of Fog. I mean, he could still bring in, I guess, that Bone Splitter over a Ranker. You lose the Trample, but you can at least keep that extra damage on the board. Hitting Ranker is going to be a little bit hard in this particular matchup because, again, obviously Mono Black has so many kill spells. Scattershot Archer, again, not going to work. Plenty of options to kill off enchantments and artifacts. Also not going to work. It's like Fog and Nourish are kind of his best options. He could bring in Relics against the Unearths, but that just seems kind of terrible as far as options go. Longbow, maybe. That's still, again, terrible. That's much better in so many other things. I really just... I'm not sure he's got really anything going for him out of the sideboard. As opposed to his opponent here, who's got just everything. I mean, if I were J-Series, I'd be sitting there going, well, what don't I want? That's a harder question for you. Because he's got so many kill spells available. You kind of, I guess, have to pick and choose. Maybe, I think, the verdicts are a little less important because of the Edict effect and the ability of Stompy to put so many creatures out at one particular time. The Wrench in Mind, obviously, probably going to come in. Tendrils works really well to kind of cancel out the fast aggression of those decks. But we're going to move into the second game here. If J-Series can pull this out, that will tie the teams up here in the finals. Again, we do have Team DBC in the finals here for our team lead against Sneaky Little Green Men. It will be definitely an interesting matchup. I thought the best option for Team DBC to really kind of just sweep this was going to be Hustle in the first, but he did lose a very close game to Drinkard, who made a really smart move in just conceding out that second game. So some debate here for J-Series on whether or not to mulligan. Sometimes you can end up with a little bit of a clunky start with these hands, even if, being the mono black player, even if you have lands available to you. If you kind of start with a clunky hand that, you are running 6 cycling lands. So if you get kind of too many of those, you're looking at a very slow start. Your 2 drops may not come in until turn 3. If you have to use your first 2 land drops as tapped lands. And that's not something you want to see. You want to get that early aggression going. We may even... I'm not sure he will go as far, but he may even bring in those Wrench in Minds. And if he wants to get that early discard going, that's going to be kind of where the focus is. And it looks like he is going to drop down to 6, but that's as far as he has to go. So that's, I guess, nice for him. And turn 1 Sentinel. Again, a nice fast start. We saw how Drinkard was able to kind of pull out this early aggression. It is one of the best starts we see out of Stompy, with the Sentinel into Pit Skulk, if he can pull that out. But Siri is actually, running the dead weights, which we do see here. I was just going to say, don't count him out on that first turn. It's not like he's basically skipping a first turn, because he does have the dead weights and that opportunity to kill something off early. So now Young Wolf, maybe with that in the starting hand, Drinkard's thinking, God, I wish I had played that on the first turn, but at least he drew out the kill. Keeping Mono Black out of cards is a tough thing to do thanks to the Ragers and the Sign and Bloods, and especially in the sneak list where it's running 6 of those cycling lands. But he's down to 5 and now 4, and so you're able to do it if you get a fast start. You can keep it down for a little while. Obviously, it's never going to be enough, and even as the game progresses, drawing a card is not going to be as good as having a full hand, obviously. So we'll have to see what if Drinkard can do about taking advantage of kind of this slow start and the mulligans that J-Series had to take. So second Ranger coming down, making up for the victim that was spent earlier to kill the other, and now the Shinnin of Life's War. Another card, I really like this card in the deck. This is something that has kind of fallen out of favor. Those who play Stompy these days don't really run it. It is definitely a classic addition to the particular deck, but it works really nice, to kind of finish off a game by forcing, obviously, other creatures to block that as opposed to something else. It's almost like giving another creature trample because of the fact that, it can't block something. So Rancor coming down on that. That's kind of nice, I guess, but at this point, ooh, and then he's going to pump it up to a 7/6 attack through with everything, forcing the Rager to block that. Rager's going to die. Going to take a total of 7 damage off of this attack here. Kind of a nice play there for Drinker, but he is now down to 1 card in hand, and I don't know any deck that likes to have just 1 card in hand. Stompy is definitely one of those ones. Being an aggro deck in Pauper means that you are very likely to end up in this top deck mode, and some decks can deal with it much better than others. So hitting a 4th land here, 4 cards in hand, you imagine there has to be a kill spell. Oh, and Unearth probably going to draw a kill spell. 3 cards now. I'm sorry, 3 land now. Plenty of options to kill off that spirit, but you are going to get back the Rancor once that dies. So a little bit of thought here from J-Series. Maybe too many options, too many things he has to kill, and that's kind of what Stompy needs to have going for it. The benefit that Mono Black gets is obviously, having Crypt Rats, and Crypt Rats is the only Wrath of God that we do get. And it looks like he will kill that off. It will be a dead weight to finish that off, and the Rancor is at least going to return to hand. Could provide the Young Wolf with that pump. That would force a trade out of the Rager. Probably, though, with 2 mana available, you kind of have to watch out. 3 cards in hand, 2 mana available for Mono Black. There is any number of kill spells that could come in there, being obviously Victim, I think is his only option, actually. Taking a quick look. So Ledgewalker is going to be really nice here as well. He also has Echoing Decay. So those are his 2 options here, because all of the Edict effects he does have are going to be kind of useless. Oh, and the Rancor is going to come down on the Ledgewalker. Okay, so that's going to basically negate any opportunity that J-Series had to target something down. If he did have a kill spell there, and no attack, okay. He's playing a little defensive here, and that's alright. And any opportunity J-Series would have had to keep that Rancor permanently off the battlefield by killing a creature in response to its play is going to be completely scrubbed out by putting it on that Ledgewalker. If he tried to throw out an Edict, and he does have plenty of those available, even if he didn't sideboard additional copies in, it's going to just, stick there. He would have been able to sacrifice the Ranger or the Wolf even better to make that happen. So 5 mana, plenty of stuff for J-Series. If he just finds himself, obviously, probably looking for a little bit of extra draw. Sign in Blood becomes a little more dangerous as you hit this 10 mark, halfway through your life. and especially against a player like this, Drinkard's going to start taking advantage of this ledge walker. I'm going to be able to obviously do 3 unabated, and there is no option for J-Series outside of actually just straight killing that ledge walker. He does not run any options as far as like Stinkweed or as far as Liliana Spectre, and that's something I think again is beneficial to the Mono Blacklist, but in this particular situation, going to work in Drinkard's favor. So 3 coming through. We'll take down J-Series to 7 without any additional plays. A little bit of thought. Not much he can do. I mean, if he triple edicts, it will kill him off, but he's still going to take the 3 damage because he only has 5 mana available. So I'm not entirely sure what the debate is over. Actually, it's going to take more than triple because the Young Wolf will come back. I get it. So taking it down to 7. Does Drinkard have an additional play? 2 cards in hand. Might be holding back a pump for that ledge walker just for the final blow. He's already looking at J-Series being on a 3-turn clock if he cannot find an answer for the ledge walker. And Victim of Night will come out. That would have targeted down the Young Wolf. We can expect that would have killed the Ranker, so definitely making the right move there for Drinkard, putting that Ranker on the ledge walker. A little more thought coming in, maybe deciding whether or not he wants to use an additional kill just to kill off the Young Wolf. What he could do is kill off the Young Wolf, and the Young Wolf, when it dies, it goes to the graveyard, and in response, the triggered ability for Undying goes on the stack. So before the Undying ability resolves, that would leave a ledge walker as the only creature on the battlefield, and then in response to obviously the Undying being on the stack, he could cast an edict which would force the sacrifice of ledge walker. So Drinkard has to be maybe a little careful here. J-Series is going to need 4 mana to pull that kind of thing off. But that's easy to find. If that resolves on the stack, then obviously the Young Wolf is going to come back as the 2/2, and then he's going to have another option to sacrifice. 3 cards in hand now for Drinkard. Probably keep in some lands. It's definitely a safe bet to do against mono black control. I'm going to guess that J-Series sided out a significant number of his discard abilities. I don't personally feel that Wrench in Mind is something that I want against this particular matchup. Obviously, it's nice to get rid of any pump spells, but it's pretty good at dumping its hand in itself. And if you let them pump all the creatures they want, and in response just kill them before they do damage, then you're pretty well off. So I don't think that's really what he wants here. And Drinkard may be holding on to a land or 2 to throw away to Crypt Rats, but I think it's not necessarily. I mean, he's not playing anything else, so you kind of feel like he has to have just some bluffs here on some lands. Or maybe he's simply waiting for that last turn. Verdict coming down. He's going to take advantage now, maybe. Undying on the stack, pass it back to J-Series. Does he have the kill? He does. Okay, this is where I said, you see the Young Wolf before it comes back is going to, trigger the ability, leaving the ledge walker as the only creature on the field. Now, Drinkard is going to, at the very least, get back the Ranker, which he could put on the Young Wolf, but it's a little bit better here for J-Series. Only 1 card in hand, but the Ranker is, despite the fact of the Ranker, it'll only do 2 damage because he could trade off this Rager. But a second Ledge Walker coming down, that's going to put him in a pretty good position if J-Series can't find another kill spell. And even if he can, he's still probably looking at least 3 damage on the next turn, still being on that 3-turn clock at this point in time. What he really needs for J-Series to pull out this second game here is going to be a Sign in Blood. We'll have to see, maybe a Rager even. Okay, Tendrils, that'll do it. Going to keep the Young Wolf off the field. Obviously still going to take some damage here, but he's going to go up 5 life thanks to this ability, and there's nothing Drinkard can do about this. So back up to 12, puts him in a pretty good position. Once you get past that midway point, you can start being more aggressive once again. He's obviously not going to want to block with the Ledge Walker, because that's going to be kind of his biggest damage dealer and his best protection against this deck. Ranger coming down. Again, we're probably still going to see a Ranker on the Ledge Walker using that ability. Here it comes, 1 mana available, not going to be enough because he would need some kind of Edict effect, obviously, to make that happen. So he's going to swing through 4-3 here. And again, J-Series still on a 3-turn clock. Just keeps that time creeping on, keeps preventing just, one more turn worth of damage. Skulk coming out now at the 2-2 thanks to that Bloodlust ability. Oh, sorry, Bloodthirst. Ledgewalker, obviously, again, still going to be kind of the key to pulling this out, I believe, for Drinkard. Really needs to win this. We are in the second game for those of you just following along. We are here in the second game in the second match. We did see J-Series pull down that very first one. And 1 card in hand, I mean, that looks pretty good if you're Stompy. That's kind of where you want to be because your opponent doesn't have a handful of kill spells, but it will at least get a dead weight on that. Probably will see maybe he trades a Witch for the Ranger, or not trades, but uses the Witch for the Ranger. Would be trading one of his own life points. Simply to keep that off the field to clear the way for an Edict effect. And if I'm Drinkard, maybe I want to get down another creature this turn. 2 cards in hand. You imagine it has to be at least a land there somewhere. There it is. Going to attack through, putting J-Series now on a 2-turn clock. Nothing he's going to be able to do in response to this attack. I said on the next turn, once that Witches loses the Summoning Sickness, he could use that ability to kill that off. Maybe holds back on actually activating that until the point where he's got the Edict effect. A little bit of time run off here by Drinkard. Obviously doing much better on the clock this time. I do keep harping on it just because I know he's had a couple of connection issues, and we did run these kind of prelim match last week. And ended up kind of timing out one of his games. So something I got to keep an eye on when it comes to him. It's always a possibility, but it seems that his connection is doing better today, hasn't had as many issues, though was very close to losing that first round against his Tortured Existence opponent. One card in hand for J-Series, again on a 2-turn clock. And a lot of pressure on. There's a lot on the line for first and second here. A pretty good difference on the payout for these two teams. But on the off chance that Drinkard managed to pull out this win and they win it in the third round, they are not in a bad position. They still have Measle on their bench, who is one of the best Pauper players out there with his Delver deck, which will be definitely troublesome. Drinkard has some options if it does come down to him versus Measle, with the archers and whatnot. But if they want to kind of really shore this up, I think they really need J-Series to pull this out here. If J-Series can pull out this win, I think that kind of shores things up. We'll probably see mono black versus mono black, and that's kind of, I hate to say it, but in my personal experience with the mirror match there, what it usually comes down to is, and a pump here. This might be game if this is a Vines. It is. So does J-Series have an Edict effect? If he does not, this will be game over. But my experience with the mono black mirror is that it comes down to, and Drinkard will take this game, does come down to the ability of the deck to top into what they need at that particular point in time. So Drinkard does pull that out. We're going to go into a third game here in the second round. It will be definitely, I said, J-Series really needs to kind of pull out this win for his team, because I think not only are you back 2 games and kind of put it all on Measle to reverse the all kill here from Drinkard, but you would be in a rather precarious position thanks to the matchup. Obviously, Delver has a pretty good matchup against almost everything, but what it's going to have against it is, main deck Scattershot Archers. We did actually see, and again, these videos will go up on the Mtgo Academy YouTube page as soon as possible. Been a little bit busy being out of town, but they will go up. And what we saw last week in that matchup, we did actually get to see, after Drinkard pulled down E-Hustle, he went up against Measle, and that was the game he ended up timing out. And that was quite the game. They went to 3 matches. And it was really kind of interesting how that played out. And it usually came down to the ability of one deck or the other to top into something, whether it was a Scattershot Archer or a counter spell. So it would be definitely an interesting matchup. And we'll have to see whether or not J-Series can actually pull this out, or if he's going to let his opponent Drinkard pull down this win. This is the third game of the second round. I guess it is a little bit to his advantage that he's going to get to go on the play. But Drinkard getting that strong start on the Sentinel. Kind of an interesting thing here with this particular list from JSeries is it is running the dead weights, which is kind of nice. It does reduce the size of something like a Mirror Enforcer, but it's just not necessarily as good as a Disfigure, which could have come in there at the end of turn and kill off that Sentinel, whereas the dead weight being an enchantment has to be played at sorcery speed. I guess in his favor, at least, he does have these witches coming down. That's going to provide a decent chump blocker off of the 3 toughness, whether or not it actually is activated for its 1 ability to ping. It's still going to be in a pretty good position. Even here, we may not see an attack from the Sentinel unless he gets, there it is, a Ranker coming in here. And that will definitely provoke the attack. Probably not block, probably take 4 at this point in time. If he does not have a kill, he can easily finish this off next turn by blocking the Sentinel with the Witches. And before damage, activating the ability to ping 1. And then when damage goes on the stack, the 1 from the Witches plus the 1 from the ability of the Witches will finish off that Sentinel, and he would only take 1 off that trample. So, looks like he is using the Witch, targeting down the Ranger, which leads me to believe that he has a kill spell for the Sentinel. I would be surprised if he just kind of left that unabated. Maybe even a Rager, sorry, to stop that. Okay. Alright, so maybe take an additional 4 here? Or does he chump block with the Switch? Again, kind of losing out because it's got that summoning sickness and can't activate the ability to do 1 damage. But unless Drinkard plays a green spell here, that Sentinel will not untap. Okay, he does have a second Ranger, which is at least going to untap that the Sentinel and allow him the attack throw. So, replays his Forest. Does he actually have an additional spell to play with it? If not, that would kind of be just a silly move, but you have to imagine he does. A little bit of thought going on. Like I said, there's definitely going to be some coaching going on here, as JSeries is running kind of the list that Sneak Attack made. I don't know, I want to say famous, but it's definitely one of the stronger lists for mono black control. And so he has Sneak Attack on his team, and if anyone's going to be able to kind of coach him through this particular game, it'll be Sneak. And again, JSeries, like I said, doesn't take the opportunity to block because, he's got such a great matchup going here with his Witches, and can, even now, he can use one of those to kill off the Ranger and still have the chance to block and kill the Sentinel and only take 1 off that. I think if you're JSeries, you still feel a little bad taking that kind of damage. Obviously, the Sentinel's untapping now. When you start, the ability of mono black to draw, it's kind of inevitable. You consider you're playing black. If you want to draw cards, you're exchanging life for those card draws. So as you look at the use of Ragers or Sign in Blood, you're going to be lowering your life even more. And when you see things like the Skulk, which it's not going to have a chance to block at this point, that's going to be definitely hard to deal with. But, 4 lands, you got to be a Tendrils coming out here, I imagine. And there it is, on the Skulk. And that's going to be nice because that, brings them up in life. And more importantly, the Skulk was going to be able to kind of get around some of his chump blockers. So Witches here going to kill off the Ranger as expected. And now, with the 1 back, I do expect a block on the Sentinel to kill it off. And you kind of, if you're a Drinkard, you kind of have to make the attack anyways, because if you do not, he can simply activate both Witches on the following turn and you've gained nothing. I mean, here at the very least he's going to gain, 1 damage off of the trample, and you have the chance on your turn and your terms to replay that Ranker on another creature. So attack through. Like I said, I expect JSeries to block and trade basically the Witch for the Sentinel. Though with 3 cards in hand, hasn't been making many kills. If he's got multiple Tendrils, that's going to put him in a pretty decent place. He could simply take the 4 damage here. Tendrils up 4-5, possibly with a land drop on the following turn. But it looks like he is going to decide to make this trade here, kind of as expected. This is definitely a really big game 3. So both players, playing it slow, trying not to make any mistakes. There has been a couple of misclicks so far in the regular season rounds, basically. So neither team wanting to forfeit this extra money in the win here. So with the block, 1 damage being dealt back to JSiri on that ability. I'm going to take an additional 1 on the trample, and the ranker is going to come back to hand after that resolves. So what does he have now? Hunger. Ooh, that's a nice one to have. And if he throws down... Oh no, that was it on the archer. So if he throws down a ranker, next turn, he has to kind of watch out for a kill. JSiri with 4 cards in hand. Again, you have to kind of expect always against mono black, if they have cards in hand and mana available, that they have a kill of some sorts. If for whatever reason he does not, you could be looking at this 4-5. Getting that extra trample, getting that ranker in play, and just causing all kinds of trouble. I mean, if I'm Drinkard, I kind of want to actually spread around that. I want to have at least a second creature that I could put that on. Piling all of your pump and all of your enchantments on a single creature provides a pretty easy target for the mono black player to take out. So no play right here. That's kind of to be expected. If he does have a kill spell, probably going to use it, or at least try to use it in response to the ranker coming down. So Young Wolf is the first play, and that's good. If it is an edict effect out of JSiri, he's going to have another target for it. Drinkard possibly debating where he wants to put that ranker, going to actually just go straight to combat. Alright, so he's going to swing through for 4. See whether or not JSiri actually wants to make this particular block. Or if he has a kill spell, just outright use that. If he does, I wouldn't be surprised to see Drinkard just kind of swing around the ranker afterwards. So it looks like witches are going to target down the Young Wolf. That's going to bring it back as a 2-2. Another damage dealt there on JSiri on the backlash. And now the edict's going to come down. So that'll keep the witches on the field. Again, we saw this kind of move earlier on with the ability from the Young Wolf goes on the stack. So being able to play an edict with that on the stack will allow you to kill off what you desire. So the wolf does get bigger. But the trade-off is that he kind of kills off that 4-5 archer, which I think is definitely the right move, definitely the harder of the two to get rid of. At 2 toughness, it's something he can easily trade with a rat, if we see that later on. So, do we see the ranker? I imagine we do. No, Skulk, okay. Well, we still know 2 cards in hand. One of those is a ranker, and now the Skulk might be the target of that ranker later on because of that extra ability to bypass a creature with a smaller toughness to basically avoid a chump blocker. Tap outs here. Ooh, Crypt Rats. That's going to give JSiri the ability to wipe the board, but even Crypt Rats at this point is going to be tough. Puts him in an okay position because it clears the board from Drinkard. Doesn't give him anything, obviously, to throw that ranker on, but it does put JSiri down to 7. We talked about earlier how having that low life points is a little detrimental to mono black because you reach that sense of urgency when you play things like your Ragers or your Sign in Bloods, but even the Crypt Rats is going to provide damage to yourself and the Witches even with no better targets. So we see the ranker coming out on the elite. Going to be a nice card. When JSiri's tapped out like that, the ranker's going to land and stay. So that's really nice for Drinkard. And the elite's going to come back off of that persist ability, obviously smaller. When it comes back, it'll easily die to the witches. And he's going to have to take another point of damage here on the Rager, dropping down to 6. But Drinkard has no cards in hand, already in top deck mode. JSiri, in response, having 4 now. 2 mana available. Most of the great kill spells for that deck come in at that point. Ken, at this point, there he is, a Devour Flesh. Like I said, it will kill off that elite, and when it comes back as that 1/1, he can simply activate the ability of the witch, but it will put him down to 5 if he chooses to do so. May not even actually do that. Depends how bad. No, he is going to. Okay. I was going to say it depends how desperate he is for life at this point. Conveying the fact that he's willing to go down to 5. Maybe a bit of a desperation move. Maybe it kind of foretells that he has a Tendrils of Corruption in hand and can kind of give himself a little more breathing room. Plays another land. Interesting move. Playing an additional Baron Moor instead of possibly cycling that away for an additional card later. And Drinkard doesn't make a creature drop. This is kind of where J-Series needs to take advantage here. Throws down another Rager, dropping him now down to 4. Again, I kind of feel like those cards in hand, there has to be at least 1 Tendrils for him to be spending life like this. Obviously unavoidable. 1 already in his graveyard, but I'm guessing he did sideboard in all 4, and Drinkard misses a creature drop again. Cycling away a Baron Moor, 4 cards in hand. Going to be able to push through 5, looking at Drinkard now being on a 5-turn clock. J-Series pulling this out possibly at 4 life might be able to still bring this game in hand. Drinkard trying to save things here. We are in the third game of this match. 2 turns now left for Drinkard for him to find some kind of answer. At this point, J-Series can easily go on the aggression. 3 cards in hand, probably some kill. Probably going to be able to kill off whatever Drinkard has. J-Series might be able to pull this out. Drinkard's going to need probably a Vines in order to keep himself alive here, in addition to a creature. And to turn a little bit of thought going on here, so maybe another creature in hand. It is a Crypt Rats. That's going to be that's going to be a strong play, because if this game comes down to it, if Drinkard is able to start pulling this out, we see J-Series here going to attack for 6. If he managed to pull this out and kind of tie things up, he could simply activate the Crypt Rats for 4 and make a tie. And take this to a 4th game, but it looks like Drinkard's not going to be able to do anything here. Passing the turn along, still no creatures, and J-Series will take this, tying up the series here between these 2 teams, and we'll probably see Sneak Attack coming out for the Mono Black Mirror in this 3rd match. So we're going to take a second here, and they will definitely get that game going.